question leaves a trail. Every story hides a clue. Truth is waiting in the silence. Come take the dive, I'll walk with you. Maine Mirror, where truth comes into view.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a look at something that, let's be honest, usually puts folks right to sleep: municipal financial records. But we're going to show you exactly how to read them. If you've ever looked at a town's budget and felt completely overwhelmed, trust me, you are not alone. We're focusing on the town of Belgrade, Maine. And look, we aren't here to argue whether taxes are too high or reserves are too low. We're here strictly for civic education. Let's decode how your town's paperwork actually functions.
Okay, let's dive into this chronological journey. We're going to follow the money from the initial budget blueprint all the way to the final audit receipt. Because to truly grasp a municipality's finances, you can't just look at one document in a vacuum, right? It's a whole life cycle. It starts in the spring with the budget and warrant articles, moves into the summer when the actual tax rate is calculated, continues year-round as the town spends that money, and finally wraps up at year-end with the independent audit.
So here is our roadmap for today. We'll be going over 1. Making the town budget, 2. Calculating the tax rate, 3. Tracking the monthly spending, 4. The annual audit snapshot, and 5. Why these primary sources actually matter.
All right, let's kick things off with step 1, making the town budget.
Now, before a single tax bill even hits the mail, the town has to decide what to spend. And what's really fascinating here is how a seemingly dry motion represents real-time, critical adjustments to your taxpayer money. Pulled directly from the Select Board meeting on April 14, 2026, this shows that town officials are actively tweaking revenue lines and amending articles long before they ever go to voters at a town meeting. It's not just a rubber stamp.
And these exact motions are captured right there in the public meeting minutes. This is literally the unpolished, step-by-step human process of local government in action. Department heads propose numbers, the Budget Committee reviews them, the Select Board hashes them out, and the public weighs in. If you ever want to know why a certain amount was requested, well, meeting minutes are for sure your first stop.
Eventually, all of those early public discussions and decisions become the foundation of the town's official annual town report. All of those individual warrant articles and budget motions, they get packaged together into this book, which is essentially the town's yearly prospectus given out to voters. It's the culmination of months and months of public meetings.
Moving right along to step 2, calculating the tax rate.
So once the budget is actually approved, how does the town figure out what you owe? Well, it builds into a very straightforward 4-step mathematical process. First, you take the total taxable valuation of all the property in town. Second, you add up all the money the town voted to spend on municipal services and education. Third, you subtract any revenues the town expects to get from things like state sharing or local fees. And step 4 leaves you with the net amount that literally must be raised by local property taxes.
And here is the actual Maine Revenue Services form, where you can see those exact steps mapped out in the official public record. Every single municipality in Maine uses this standardized form. Notice Belgrade's total taxable valuation sitting right around $1.05 billion for real estate, which drives the required property tax commitment calculated right down at the bottom. So, the crucial takeaway here is that this single document is the missing link. It shows the hidden math, connecting the town's budget decisions directly to your wallet. A lot of residents just glance at their final tax bill when it arrives in the mail. But this form proves that your tax rate isn't some arbitrary number pulled out of thin air. It is the direct mathematical result of the town's total valuation weighed against the budget that was voted on.
Okay, on to step 3, tracking the monthly spending.
With the tax bills sent out, let's actually follow the money as it goes out the door during the fiscal year. This monthly financial report lets you check in on the spending, showing exactly how much of each department's budget has been utilized year to date. You see, the town doesn't just spend its whole budget on January 1st. They generate these expense summaries so officials, and you, the taxpayer, can track the burn rate. You can see the total budgeted amount, what was spent in the current month, and the exact percentage of the budget that has been exhausted so far.
And as you can see from the report, the lion's share of municipal spending consistently flows into 5 major categories. Education is almost always the biggest piece of the pie, followed closely by maintaining the roads with public works, running the general government, keeping folks safe with public safety, and paying off old loans through debt service.
Smaller departments like recreation or the library, they account for a much, much smaller slice.
Which brings us to step 4, the annual audit snapshot.
Finally, the year wraps up and the town gets its receipt. Let's pause for a second on this massive $17.7 million net position just to grasp the scale of the town's finances. When citizens see a number like that, they immediately start asking questions, and rightfully so. But to understand what this number actually means in context, we have to look at the primary source document it came from.
Looking directly at the statement of net position, that $17.7 million figure sits right down at the bottom right. But take a look at all the lines above it. You see, an audit is essentially a snapshot in time, specifically December 31st, 2025. It lists all the town's assets, like cash and property, and then subtracts all its liabilities, like unpaid bills or future pension obligations. The remainder is this net position. This document sets a clear financial baseline at a specific moment, detailing millions in cash, investments, and total assets. Specifically, the 2025 audit shows Belgrade had about $6.6 million in cash and cash equivalents, and $1.6 million in investments. This is the financial reality on paper. It's the absolute baseline that everyone, no matter their political leaning, has to start from when discussing town finances.
Now, to clear up some common confusion around the word reserves, we really need to understand the fundamental difference between unassigned funds and restricted funds. Honestly, this is where town debates usually get messy. When folks talk about reserves, they often mean totally different things. Unassigned funds are a lot like the town's checking account. It's money that can generally be moved around for governmental purposes. Restricted funds, on the other hand, are like a strict trust fund. They are legally bound to be used only for very specific things, maybe dictated by state law or a specific grant.
By checking out the balance sheet, you can see exactly where these different reserve categories live. Right under fund balances, there are separate rows for non-spendable, restricted, committed, and unassigned funds. So if one resident says the town has X amount in reserves and another insists they have Y amount, guess what? They might both be right. They are just looking at completely different categories on this exact sheet.
All right, wrapping things up with step 5, why primary sources matter.
So, why even bother reading these original documents? Well, because while an audit is amazing at showing us the raw financial reality, it cannot answer subjective questions about public policy. The audit will tell you exactly how many millions are in the bank. It will absolutely not tell you why the town decided to put it there or whether it was a good idea. That is a public policy debate, and an audit doesn't take a side.
These records give us the baseline facts, and that perfectly equips us to ask deeper, much more informed questions about the town's future direction. When you know how to read the audit and the tax calculation form, you can start asking the really important stuff. How have these property taxes trended over the last half-decade? Why did the town's reserve policy change? Who is actually showing up to town meetings to vote on these millions of dollars in the first place?
We've followed the money through the paperwork, but the true value of transparency isn't just a town publishing its documents, it's a community actually knowing how to read them. Now that you can separate raw financial data from the political noise, the most important question remains. Next time millions of dollars are on the line at a town meeting, will you be there to ask the right questions? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, go take a closer look at your own town's receipts.